Greetings, students. This is a slightly edited version of a talk that Dr. Boyer and I did in fall 2023 at Internet Librarian. We're very aware that everything that we are talking about in fall 2023 may be changing at a minute-by-minute basis. Greetings and welcome to New Literacies and Emerging Tools for Search and Research. I'm Joyce Valenza. I'm an associate professor at the School for Communication and Information at Rutgers University. My colleague.
I'm Dr. Brenda Boyer, also with Rutgers.
We want you to know that we're going to go through an awful lot of emerging search tools today, and they will be available on this large petting zoo that we have for you, and we'll share this URL and QR code again later in the presentation. In fact, here's a screenshot of it. We want you to think about the standards that we all encounter and how what we're talking about today as we look at how search is evolving has everything to do with the standards that we hold dear. The ACRL frame, the AASL shared foundations, and the ISTE standards for students. All of them involve the way young people need to learn to work, live, and create with information. Right now, we're facing a period of great change in which we understand that our students are going to graduate and need to work symbiotically with AI tools for search and also for knowledge management and for creativity. We're also aware that perhaps we are facing a new information literacy to address in our classrooms and libraries. We need to think about how AI literacy may connect to the others. Across the literature that we examined, we synthesized some definitions of what AI literacy might look like, and you can study these later. But I think it's really important to know that students need to grow their toolkits as they move forward into college and career. In fact, our students have rich existing toolkits of traditional search tools and databases. And now there is a broader range of search tools that we need to include in a larger and perhaps more robust digital search toolkit. Let's start with a few of them. These are the search tools that are specifically search tools. Now, the table that was generated from Claude.ai, a large language model, illustrates some of the difference among the new search tools and how they might be useful for students, their scope, their features, and whether they provide references and search the web. In this table, which was generated from a little list, we asked Claude to compare the search tools, the traditional search tools versus the AI-generated search tools. And you'll see that there are some powerful advantages to using AI search tools. One is the use of natural language processing to understand questions and create a conversation with your system. To provide direct answers rather than just links to pages in the form of a search engine result page, the ability to summarize and create context from multiple sources, to clarify questions and refine answers, especially in the conversation, to personalize results, to aggregate responses, to evaluate credibility and accuracy. Now, some tools are beginning to offer some features for that, but the onus of evaluation is, of course, always on the searcher, the researcher, the student. And some of them are giving citations for the synthesis that they're giving. And also, some of them are explaining how they got to the answers that they are presenting. So these are some things to keep in mind as we look at traditional tools versus AI-driven. Dr. Boyer, you explored Brave for us, didn't you?
Sure. Brave is a new engine that's out there, and it is using the AI to provide what it calls the summarizer, which uses the most up-to-date web info to summarize a topic more broadly for students. It also has lots of great features, as you can see here on the right-hand side. One of them being what it calls a goggles tool, which allows the user to select different lenses through which to look at a particular topic. So here's an example looking for resources appropriate for ninth graders on the January 6th Capitol attack. And notice at the bottom, there are different goggles or lenses through which the results can be filtered. And excellent resources, of course, that are offered as well.
We like U.com. It's a really lovely general search, and it searches across media types in many of the same ways that Google and Bing do. But what it does is it does give you a synthesis. And so when a student is walking into a conversation and has no background, this particular context can be useful. What we wanted to do here was ask it a typical question that a third grader might have. Who are some famous environmental scientists that I might use for a wax museum project? And notice that it gave us the names of the scientists and a little description of that. So they're not starting from scratch. Another thing that I love about you is it not only gives you the contextual essay, but along with that, it's telling you where the sources of the essay come from, where the synthesis is developed from, and you can go to those sources on your own.
Right, here's just another example of a ninth grader searching for info, and you can see that the results that are suggested to provide not only summaries, but also some high quality resources for that student. And I wanted to do a little experiment, so I used another AI tool to analyze the text just provided in those results to see if it is indeed written at a ninth grade level. It came out a little bit higher than that, but it's just another way that these tools can be leveraged and sometimes used together to help you find the right thing for a particular student. Another one of these new engines is Como, and we've included this here because it includes an interesting layout. It provides a visual bulletin type layout of results, which may be more appealing depending upon the needs of your particular searcher. We're going to take a look at some tools now and ways to leverage AI for academic search.
Many of us are already fans of JSTOR. I thought of it as the easy button for academic research for my high school students. As long as they avoided book reviews, they could be pretty sure that everything that they found in JSTOR was peer-reviewed or a scholarly article. But recently, actually, I think it was maybe more like 3 or 4 years ago, very quietly, JSTOR introduced Text Analyzer, which is a feature of many of the academic search tools now. So if you were asked to students to find their killer result on a result list in JSTOR or anywhere else, get the PDF and drag it into this box in the Text Analyzer. They could also bring in their original essay. If you go to the next slide, Dr. Boyer, you'll see that it will analyze that article in a way that is much richer than our use of controlled vocabulary and metadata. It will analyze it for topics that may have been hidden. It will reach across disciplines. It will allow us to use sliders for major topics or prioritized terms. And it gives us an awful lot of control in our search to get to similarities in articles that we might not normally get to through the simple use of keywords, or if our students move towards controlled vocabulary. This does a far better job of making connections. Perplexity is an academic search tool which will give you will identify articles on major topics or any topics you're searching for, but will also give you related articles. It'll give you summaries. It'll give you the major themes. It'll do an awful lot of work. Here's a closer look at Perplexity. Notice that I've given it a typical kind of AP English question: share a variety of soliloquies from the female characters in Shakespeare's tragedies for me to compare. I'm not asking it to compare these soliloquies because that's the work I want to do as a student, but I'm asking it for some possibilities for me. And I think this is a great strategy to begin research and for us to really look at academically honest ways that our students can use AI search tools to improve their work and to connect dots that they may not have seen before. Another tool in academic search is consensus. And I think this is really good in science research, but it also works in some social science research as well. I asked it a question on the effective use of AI technologies in higher education. And it gave me consensus across the studies. And so it actually helps me figure out what the major arguments people are having are and where the similarities in these arguments land. Examples of questions that they give, for instance, for students: does the death penalty reduce crime? And for researchers, does zip code affect maternal mortality? This is just a wonderful way to get started in your research. And these are just some of the results. And notice that the results also offer multiple ways to cite these studies. You can also see that there are ways to search across journals interdisciplinarily. You can filter for the study types and also for the currency. And also it gives you data relating to how many times the articles were cited, who cited them, who the authors cite, and all that other stuff that can be very helpful in citation chaining that we introduce to students later in their high school careers. Searching for science is much easier through SciSpace. You can search papers, authors, topics, and more. You can upload a PDF just as you could in JSTOR to get it analyzed and to find papers with similarities. And this is just an example of what some of the results and some of the filters look like, the very impressive filters look like in SciSpace. Semantic Scholar is, at the academic level, a kind of competitor to Google Scholar. It is a really beautiful way for us to understand citation connections and to reach across a global research community. What this might look like is looking at related papers, number of times something's been cited, looking for the most influential citations, and strategies for citing. There are tools that connect with Semantic Scholar that make these results visualized. And we're not going to look at these now, but they're on our playlist.
Here's a brief intro to Semantic Scholar.
Semantic Scholar is a free AI-powered academic search engine with more than 200 million papers covering all disciplines. A free service from the Allen Institute for AI. Our mission is to use artificial intelligence to accelerate scientific progress. We use advanced AI to extract and summarize the meaning of papers and generate new research recommendations on the research dashboard. We also provide open resources for developers, like the Semantic Scholar Academic Graph, API, and datasets. To get started, visit semanticscholar.org and search for any query. You can create a free account to save papers to your library and view your recommendation feeds. Filter by field, date range, conference, and more to refine the results. On paper pages, we use AI models to summarize a research publication, view figures and tables, and navigate citations to find connections to other papers. We offer many ways to explore our citation graph. Our system indexes billions of citations, using AI models to classify the intent and predict the influence of each. Find citation type by scrolling to the citations listed for any paper and using the citation type filter. Semantic Scholar classifies some citations as highly influential, allowing scholars to quickly determine which publications to read in depth. Search, filter, and sort a paper's citations. Save the paper to your library, generate an alert for new citations of that paper, or view related papers. Visit your research dashboard often for new paper recommendations, and set up daily or weekly email alerts to stay up to date. Join our global research community at semanticscholar.org.
Another promising research tool that is AI-based is Research Rabbit. In fact, some are calling it Spotify for papers.
I'm Mike from Research Rabbit, and in this demo, I'm going to show how Research Rabbit is completely different from Google and reimagines discovery for knowledge. But first, here's Google. In Google, you start with a keyword and then get a list of results. You start scrolling down, opening up a bunch of links, and in terms of relevance, the items at the top are most relevant, and relevancy declines as you scroll down. You click next page and relevancy declines further. And sooner or later, you enter a new keyword and start all over again. At the end of this process, you have a bunch of tabs. They all look different. The data comes from a specific walled garden. Clicking on metadata opens more tabs, and you've gotten completely lost with all this stuff. By contrast, here's Research Rabbit. In Research Rabbit, you can start by entering keywords like Google, but also title, author, identifier, and RIS and bib text file formats, which researchers use. And now I'm going to show you what you can do after adding a single paper. Based on a single paper, you can see the author, year, title, abstract, all of the references and how they relate, all of the citations and how they relate, and similar papers that Research Rabbit has found. The graphs that emerge enable users to understand relationships amongst the content and is a really intuitive way to understand large amounts of information. These graphs are also interactive and can be viewed in different ways. For example, our timeline view is super helpful. Finally, these graphs can serve as jumping off points for additional discovery. If any of the papers look interesting, you can dive deeper and learn more. And let's say instead of a paper, you want to explore an author. We've activated that metadata as well. By selecting an author instead, you can pull all of that author's papers and see them along the timeline too. You can also visualize their collaboration network. Each of these dots is a person that Gulkhan Garib has authored with in the past. And as before, you can use the graph as a jumping off point. Finally, at the end of all this, let's say you found a paper that's absolutely perfect. You can simply drag and drop it into your collection. So that's the first amazing thing about Research Rabbit. You don't have to rely on keywords. You can explore however you like, from papers to authors to graphs. And you can also follow the breadcrumbs to remember how you got to where you are and quickly go back to where you started. The next amazing thing about Research Rabbit is our positive feedback loop, or what we call our Spotify for papers. As you can see here, the numbers will update as you add papers into your collection. Research Rabbit is learning what you're interested in and generating better and better results in real time. Our relevancy increases as you use the app, whereas Google relevancy decreases over time. Finally, based on the items in your collection, Research Rabbit keeps track of all of the new papers that are published. And if and only if Research Rabbit thinks something is super relevant, we'll go ahead and email you on a Sunday night. We don't spam you with noisy alerts based on keywords. There's a lot more features and capabilities here, but these are some key value props that set us apart from every other discovery tool out there. Our platform is purpose-built for identifying key knowledge content and experts, and we're excited to serve researchers around the world.
Elicit is another wonderful academic search tool. You see here that it searches across 175 million papers. And what academics are using it for, and I think what high school students can use this for, is this is really starter dough for any kind of lit review or bibliography.
Here's just one example of that. If we're searching for a particular topic, looking at college freshmen and information literacy skills, we put the search into Elicit, and it gives us not only a summary of the top papers, it will also delineate each paper and give us a short summary of the abstract. So it's an excellent starter for any research topic.
In addition to specific search tasks, we can use AI tools as research assistants. This is a list of some of the tools that we've been examining that allow us to interact with the documents that we collect. Chat PDF allows us to have conversations with any PDF we drag into that search box.
Here's just one example. I put a PDF up of an article that I was using with my graduate students, and it gives, of course, a brief summary of it, but it also generates example questions that you might pull as an instructor. It gives ideas for how you might direct classroom discussions from there and so on. And then, of course, it also summarizes what is actually going on in this particular study. So it's an incredibly efficient research assistant in that regard, whether I'm doing research or preparing reading materials for my students.
That one is not the only one that does article summaries. Scholarcy is another one, and it will identify the key concepts, the highlights of the article, and also discuss the abstract. There are many of these coming out, And there are writing tools. We're not going to go through very many of them, but a popular one is Quillbot. And Quillbot allows you to rewrite your text and or paraphrase it in particular types of styles. And notice that you can use it across languages. So in terms of using these tools as research assistants, I think of my research assistant, my AI research assistant, as a tool that's always in training. It's my partner. It could be a great time saver for students as well as educators. But I don't trust it to be independent. It is learning, and I am, or my students are still the experts and the lead learners. And it's always important to keep humans in the loop to check for accuracy and credibility. Using those large language models that everybody is using for tools like writing, there are some strategies that they can be leveraged for research. Let's take a look. Among the large language models are Bard, Bing Chat, ChatGPT, Claude. Not everybody has access to the Eric Thesaurus or the mesh subject headings or just general subject headings from databases. This allowed me to collect major subject headings on ADHD from across the databases. In this case, I was imagining I was a student, a high school student, looking for poems to analyze, and I wanted to look specifically for Latina poets. And I asked for a list. I came up with a pretty wonderful list. And not only did it give me a list of poets, but it gave me a list of their poems that I might be interested in analyzing. So here I am, not panicked and starting from scratch, but I had a little leg up from an assistant. In this case, I imagined I was an AP history student and I needed some respected research portals that offered primary sources relating to the causes of the American Civil War. It gave me the types of resources that I would likely use in a LibGuide if I was creating it for the same purpose. So the student again gets a foot up here and can start in Fordham University's Internet History source books, which I love as a primary source tool, American Memory Collection from the Library of Congress, documenting the American South from the University of North Carolina. It is a fabulous way to start. For me and for my students, I would imagine that reader's advisory in every genre is a challenge. And so I tested it out on Afrofuturism and I played around with my prompt a little bit. And I got a wonderful list of Afrofuturism fiction. And this could be something we don't want to eliminate our jobs, but it is a great way to kind of fill in on the spot and to have students play with to help them in their own reading journeys. If you loved a book, why not ask a large language model to give you some suggestions? In addition, I asked for The Hate You Give, and I think it gave me a pretty good list of read-alikes for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself challenged by text as a student, you can use these tools to help reduce text complexity, just as a teacher might. And so if I don't understand a concept in an area that I don't know much about, for me, physics, for instance, I could ask it to help reduce the text complexity and imagine they were sharing this with me as if I were a ninth grader or perhaps a sixth grader. And this can help you understand things that are more challenging. In this case, it's a glossary. Translations of anything, I cannot be sure that the translations of anything that I give are on point, but it is a start, and you can ask a speaker to evaluate its potential. Students can easily create study tools. Here is an example of flashcards for medical school anatomy students that can be created more specifically for the bones of the hand, perhaps. You can help create Jeopardy games for students to study with or for you to use in your libraries and classrooms. What we're seeing here now is that search engines are evolving, and the Google we are looking at today may not look the same in 6 months. At a recent expo, Google announced its search generative experience. And let's play just a little bit about the announcement, and then we'll see another announcement that Google recently made.
Now, search does the heavy lifting for you. What you see here looks pretty different. So let me first give you a quick tour. You'll notice a new integrated search results page, so you can get even more out of a single search. There's an AI-powered snapshot that quickly gives you the lay of the land on a topic. Then if you want to dig deeper, there are links included in the snapshot. You can also click to expand your view, and you'll see how the information is corroborated.
So that's just a taste of what the generative search experience looks like. Google recently announced that teens in the US who are signed into a Google account will be able to sign up for the Search Labs experience and select this experiment for the Google app or the Chrome desktop. And so they'll have access to the search generative experience, AI combined with search engine results. And let's see what that looks like. But I think what's going to happen is it's going to be very hard for anybody to ignore AI in search moving forward. So we want to close by showing you that we've gathered some of the new tools together in a number of areas for you to explore, including policy statements and guidance. That we have this petting zoo that we hope that you'll take a look at and maybe use in your own professional development. And that you'll have conversations. Using these tools productively can be very exciting, but you need to have a conversation about what's expected for each assessment, and students need to be clear. When can we use it? Can we use these tools for brainstorming, for finding lists of sources, for summarizing content, for outlining, for grammar check, for paraphrasing? These are conversations that need to happen not only at the course level, but also at the assessment level. A number of people have created kind of spectrums of human to bot use. This one has been created by Matt Miller of Ditch That Textbook, and this is great for having conversations for students about what is appropriate for any particular assessment. This is an earlier version of Matt Miller's spectrum, which are considered cheating, which are considered more creative, student-created use. And another person who's been working on this is Ryan Watkins, who's created a green, yellow, red format. And so we recognize, and Dr. Boyer, feel free to jump in, that we're in the midst of a whirlwind. We can establish policies, we can think about where we are and teach what we think it's what's current, but things are going to change.
Absolutely. And what I see this is as not a threat, but this is absolutely an opportunity. This is an opportunity to really expand those literacies we were talking about at the beginning, to really expand our students' understanding of media literacy and information literacy. We can harness this tool to actually improve our instruction in those more traditional literacies as we go. I really see these working hand in hand. I do not see them as separate in any way.
Yes, and as librarians, we don't want to be the people who are all about the gotchas, but about those opportunities you described. And so we hope you'll visit our full presentation, which has lots of bonus slides, as well as our petting zoo and our playlists. Thank you for joining us.